AJ, I do have to say that this bout right here, this is out of all of the bouts on the entire card, AJ, this is the one that I had the most difficulty in choosing. And the reason why is because this is a high stakes matchup in the middleweight division right here. However, we had a little bit of news that got dropped just recently. Derek Brunson said, win or lose, I'm going to be retiring after 2 fights. That's not what you want to hear in one of the biggest fights of the man's career, right? And when you're fighting the killer gorilla, number 3, Jared Cannonier, man, it's going to be a very tough task. But Derek Brunson, if he's proven anything, he's proven that he's been able to get it done against some of the biggest names in the division. So let's look at his last 5, man. He has a win over Theodoro. He has a win over Ian Heinisch, Edmund Shabazian, Kevin Holland, and Darren Till, which all of those are very impressive names in the middleweight division. But let's just do a little contrast with Jared Cannonier, because I feel like Jared Cannonier is one of those dudes who just kind of gets written off, like overlooked. You know what I mean? Like for whatever reason, he doesn't get the respect that he deserves. So Brunson 5-0, he won all of those fights, right? Cannonier 4-1. His only loss in his last 5 was to Robert Whittaker, the former champion, and let's be honest, Cannonier did get injured in that fight, like early in like the first round or something, like he broke his arm or something. But still, Whittaker, he got the job done. But like I said, all right, so he gets a win over David Branch. He finishes Anderson Silva. He finishes Jack Hermansson, loses to Robert Whittaker, and then decisions Kelvin Gastelum, right? If you had to compare those 2 lists of names, who do you give the edge to in terms of strength of schedule?
Wow,
It's tough, huh?
It's tough. This is I agree with you, Derek. This fight, honestly, the next one as well, I had a very hard time picking both of who I wanted to win. It's rough because did her Cannonier fight Silva at his peak?
No.
Not necessarily. No. Is David Branch a hard opponent? Yes.
No,
Is
yeah.
he as hard of opponent as Elias Theodoro? Theodoro?
Yeah.
I mispronounced that. A little bit harder, in my opinion. That one's a little closer. Ian Heinisch, Edmund Shabazian, Kevin Holland, Darren Till. All of these fighters are very, very tough, but the same thing. Jack Hermansson, Kelvin Gastelum, Robert Whittaker, Bobby Knuckles are arguably, if Cannonier didn't injure himself, he could have won that fight. Being injured, excuse me, folks. Being injured and still getting to a decision against Bobby Knuckles is a feat on its own. Yeah. So it's a very hard way to say which one is a little bit better. Personally, I think it's Derek Brunson, man. I give Brunson a lot of heat on this show, but I think he has a harder path since he dropped one to Izzy Adesanya.
A rare moment, folks. AJ shows Derek Brunson some love. You got to see it, man. Look at how the tides have turned, man. But listen, I think that it's close. It's comparable. It's close. I'm going to give a little bit of an edge to Jared Cannonier. And the one reason why is because if you look at the last 2 fights for Derek Brunson, really the last 3 fights, he fought 3 strikers, right? 3 strikers with really no grappling pedigree at all. Darren Till, I mean, come on. Once he got to the ground, it was game over. Kevin Holland, once he got to the ground, it was game over. Edmund Shabazian, once he got to the ground, it was game over. Like, there was nothing for them. However, Kelvin Gastelum, yes, he is a striker, right? But this is a dude who goes to wars with everybody and doesn't get finished. Robert Whittaker, great wrestler who never really uses it. Former champion, come on. Jack Hermansson, not a great striker, but incredible grappler. Anderson Silva, incredible striker, has some grappling. Obviously, old Anderson Silva doesn't really count. And David Branch can do a little bit of both, right? So I'm going to give a little bit of an edge to Jared Cannonier in this, but let's talk about the matchup, brother. This is what's important right here. Derek Brunson has landed 19 takedowns in his last 5 fights. You know, literally, the game plan is to big right hand, shoot in for a double, ground and pound, finish the fight. That is the plan for Derek Brunson. There's literally no other plan. There can be no other plan because you're not going to stand up with Jared Cannonier. That's the last ditch effort. That's the last resort. But Jared Cannonier has one aspect of his game that a lot of these other fighters did not have for Derek Brunson. And it could be a detriment, but it could also be a good thing. Jared Cannonier has some of the most devastating leg kicks that you will see in mixed martial arts. Not just leg kicks, but kicks in general. And if there's one thing that Darren Till did not have for Derek Brunson that allowed Derek Brunson to get in on these singles all the time was no knees up the middle, no kicks, no threats of anything but the big 1-2. That's Darren Till special, the 1-2, right? Do you think that the kicks and the multidimensional approach of Jared Cannonier is going to give Derek Brunson issues in terms of being able to close the distance and, come in and get that patented double leg or single leg or trip or whatever? Do you think that Derek Brunson is going to be able to land a bunch of takedowns in this fight?
Man, that's exactly what I was thinking for Jared Cannonier. If he wants a path to victory, he just needs to be spamming those low calf kicks inside, outside, left, or right. Doesn't matter. Just keep spamming them because the second Derek Brunson starts to shoot on that inside and his leg just goes out, gets kicked to the outside, you can't really shoot that takedown anymore, man. You're half in it. You're in halfway out, halfway in. I think that's the best path for Cannonier, especially if he can stop once that starts happening, the speed kind of gets taken off of Brunson. You're able to stop those takedowns, just like we saw in Jack Hermansson's last fight. Once Sean Strickland was able to stop those takedowns, it's no longer a threat. Then it's just a battle. Then it's just a stand-up fight. If Jared Cannonier can get that done, now that's going to be a very high mountain to climb, a very tall task to get done, because I think Derek Brunson is very determined. He has, and like you said, Derek, he has one path to victory, and he does have hands. He's got power. He can land stuff. He lands that big right bomb of a right hand on you. It's going to hurt. You're going to feel it, but then you're going to get taken down. Then you're going to get ground and pounded. We've seen. I used to give a lot of flack to Derek Brunson because he would just hump his way to victory. But now with his last fight against who was it? Darren Till. We didn't see him just resting on his laurels on the ground. He was actually getting that ground and pound done until the rear naked choke opened up. So, Brunson, he has his path to victory. But if Jared Cannonier can actually, get those calf kicks going, start spamming them inside, outside to the legs, get the speed taken off a little bit, get Derek Brunson thinking about that leg, then that's going to be a better path for Jared Cannonier, man.
Yeah, man. I think that, listen, Jared Cannonier also has a really underrated takedown get-ups, man. He's able to get off of his butt, off of his back, and in unprecedented ways for a lot of these fighters, man. So when you look at his takedown defense, it's 62%. But let's dive into that a little bit deeper, man. So when I look over here, man, and I'm just going to scroll in for the good folks at home. So Gastelum obviously didn't take him down. Whitaker, even though the fight, he did end up having Cannonier hurt and did get him on the ground. It wasn't counted as a takedown, but Cannonier, even though he was super hurt, was still able to get up, survive, and end the fight on the feet, all that good stuff, right? So let's see. AJ, Jack Hermansson was able to take him down once, but what happens? Cannonier gets up, comes back, knocks him out. Anderson Silva, no. David Branch took him down 3 times, but Cannonier was able to get up and win the fight. That's what's important, right? Dominic Reyes, no. Jan Blachowicz, 4 takedowns. Glover Teixeira, 3 takedowns. Yanku Talaba, 6 takedowns. But that was the beginning of those careers. Look at the weight difference too, right? You know what I mean? This is when he was a big boy. Now he's over here at middleweight. So since he's been a middleweight, man, it's been more or less unstoppable in terms of people can't just sit there and hold him down. That is kind of the big point that I have here, folks. So when I move back to, the whole point of Derek Brunson's number one game plan, number one strategy is get the fight to the ground. If that does not happen, brother, who's a better striker? Come on. Listen, give me a percentage wise. How much better of a striker is Cannonier than Derek Brunson?
Oh, 80%, man.
Come on,
80%. It's not really that close.
Yeah, but believe it or not, Derek Brunson, even though Derek Brunson has a lot more fights, 12 knockouts, right? So if you go back to old school Derek Brunson, where he was throwing caution to the wind and just throwing his hands, bro, he could knock anybody out. Derek Brunson has hands. He's one of the best to do it. I know he's gotten flack on this program, but I really enjoy Derek Brunson overall as a career. I think he must be respected. If you take the man lightly, you're going to get finished, you're going to get stopped. But if you take Jared Cannonier lightly, you're going to get finished, you're going to get stopped. So that's the big thing right here, man. The one question that I have is, Jared Cannonier uses his rear teep as kind of a jab, as a rangefinder. That's probably not the wisest choice against Derek Brunson, right?
No, 100%, man. You get that kick caught, he's already in on a single leg. It's just one more step closer, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see how this game plan goes overall, man. But I think that is going to be very tactical, and we have seen. So let me just pull it up real fast, just so I can be clear right here for Derek Brunson. A couple of fights, okay, let's look at Israel Adesanya, right? He gets knocked out in the first round. Jacare Souza gets knocked out in the first round. Silva loses a decision, lost to Robert Whitaker. He got knocked out in the first round, right? There's a lot of these fighters where when they can stop the takedown and they can give you the threat of if you shoot on me, brother, I got something for you. Derek Brunson becomes a little ineffective, right? He starts staring in the mirror. Then he has to stand and trade with you. And like I said, that's going to be all Jared Cannonier, in my opinion, personally. My humble opinion. What do I know? But I do agree with the odds a little bit here. -180 for Cannonier, +155 for Brunson. However, AJ, this is where I go contradictory right here with everything that I just said. I do think Derek Brunson can win this fight. I absolutely think Derek Brunson can win this fight. I think that if there's any live dog on this card, it is Derek Brunson. And it's almost to me, it's almost this Brian Battle situation where I pick against him and he wins. I pick against him and he wins. I pick against him and he wins. And then finally, I'm listen, brother, this Gore fight, I just got to go with Gore. This is the one time I think he's going to get it done. And then Battle wins. And I'm just God damn it, I should have just fucking picked with him. That's how I feel about Derek Brunson. But I'm going to repeat mistakes of the past, and hopefully that it changes up a little bit. And I'm going with Jared Cannonier in this fight, brother. I think this is going to be a gritty fight. it's tough because I want to call for a knockout. Brunson's been knocked out 5 times. Cannonier has bombs in his hands. But the last knockout that Cannonier had was against Hermanson, Silva, and Branch, right? So, I don't think Brunson's going to put himself in a spot to just get starched out like that. If anything, he's going to get hurt like he does in almost every fight, probably shoot for a single or something like that, and at least save himself till the round ends or whatever. So even though it's boring on this AJ, the over-under is 2.5 rounds. I'm going to go over. And unanimous decision win for Jared Cannonier, brother. I know it's boring, but I got to go with it. I did pretty good on the over and unders last week, so I'll just put that out there. But who do you got, brother? Who you got and how and why?
Ooh, Derek, this is going to be a very close fight. I agree with you. If there's the livest dog on the card, it is 100% Derek Brunson. And you said you were going, going to repeat the mistakes of history. I'm actually switching it up, bro. I'm going Derek Brunson on this fight. It sounds crazy. If you've ever heard me talk on this show, I give Derek Brunson a lot of heat, but I'm rocking with him on this one, man. I think he just has that flow. He has the energy to kind of come back. He has the momentum. He has the strict game plan of what he's going to get done, and he hasn't veered from it in his last 5 fights, and they've done him very well. That can either be a double-edged sword, a good thing or a bad thing, but I think Derek Brunson's going to work it to his advantage, especially if he comes out as Blonde Brunson, comes out with that tenacity. Can Jared Cannonier get this done 100%? What happens when you stop the takedowns? It's been proven that Derek Brunson is a little ineffective that way. But, man, Jared Cannonier, he might be dropping down. He has dropped down in his last fight. He still has the speed. He still has the power. But I think Derek Brunson can just out-wrestle him. And when you're more strict on that one game plan, I think that's a little bit better for your odds. Maybe he gets shut down. Maybe I don't know what to talk about. And Jared Cannonier just absolutely starches Derek Brunson with a teep up the middle. We see something crazy. But I just think that Derek Brunson is going to be on his P's and Q's, get the takedown, get the ground and pound. I'm also going with the decision, though, with you, Derek. I definitely think this is going to be a longer of a fight. We're going to see a lot of stuff up and down. But me personally, man, I'm rocking Derek Brunson by decision.
Okay. I mean, listen, fair point, fair assessment right there. And I think, to me, I find it difficult to see Brunson winning in any fashion besides decision, personally. But, we'll see what happens right there.